back. Here I am, Fly Navarro, sitting here off of Palm Beach, Florida, in the rain, saying hello to all you Cop Kind of followers. Check out the interview. Let me know what you think. I am Fly Navarro. Thank you so much for joining us here today on this self-induced interview that I have been asked to do. So I'm going to start off with answering some of the questions that I have been given. Jill and Scott Yates from the 88s asked me to interview them. Who would I like to be interviewed by? I had to give this a lot of thought, and really the two people that I would love to be interviewed by, number one would be Chris Berman, the Swami from ESPN. I've always had a fascination with his broadcasting skills and how he speaks on camera, and I just love his energy. So I would love to be interviewed by Chris Berman. Look at him go all the way! Or Colin Cowherd, who's now with Fox Sports. I just love that he's very to the point. He'll dig in and ask questions that you really don't want to answer. So those are the two people that I'd probably like to get interviewed by. Question number 2. Who is Robert Fly Navarro, and how did this passion for fishing start, and at what age? I am the son of 2 immigrants from Cuba. I am first born in the United States of my family on both sides. I started fishing when I was 5 years old with my father, and my passion started then. And it continued to grow and grow and grow. And there's one thing I've learned about myself is I'm never satisfied with just what I have here. I always want to make it better and to grow it larger. So as I started fishing, I always wanted to go fishing farther and new places and try new things. And then when I got into the professional side of it, I wanted to go to new places and always be on the big jobs. And I wanted to go somewhere where it was the most demanding. I felt that's the best way to be able to grow and learn the sport and test my skills. If you're not constantly pushing yourself out of the comfort zone, you're not going to get any better. So I'm always pushing in no matter what I do. And now even now with my business, which is all about marketing and promoting fishing and fishing destinations, I'm always looking to do something that pushes me into an area that I'm not comfortable with, because that's the only way I feel that I'm going to be able to grow. Question number 3, I think I touched on it. Am I from Cuba or from the U.S.? Like I said, my family is from Cuba. I'm first in my family. Born here in the United States. So, and then question 4, do I speak Spanish? And which language do you feel most comfortable with? I speak English and Spanish. I read both English and Spanish. Which one do I feel most comfortable with? It's 50-50, but if I was going to have to choose which one do I think in or dream in, I think and dream in English, just because most of my day is in that world. I'm sure if I was in a location where I was speaking Spanish all day long for months on end, it would probably switch over to that. But I speak both of them very fluently and feel very comfortable speaking, reading, and writing both languages. I probably read and write in English better, but not much better. I'm not like an English major whatsoever. I need a really good editor when I write. How How does Fly get to be well known among sport fishing community and worldwide respected fishermen? Man, that's a good question. Everything I've always done in my career, I always try to give everybody else 51%. Whenever I'm asked to do something, I always try, instead of making it 50-50, I always try to make it 51-49. I don't ever want to leave people asking that they wish I would have done more. I don't ever want anybody to say he didn't do his job. So I always try to reverse the tables and see exactly how I would want it done, and I always try to give more than I take. In today's world of social media, there is no boundaries. So I literally can reach people from across the world with the stroke of one key on my computer. So I use this same passion and this same standard of helping everybody out wherever I go. So, and I feel that is something that has opened many doors for me. Whenever I get asked to do something, I go into it 120%. Am I a fishing influencer, and how does this thing work, being a fishing influencer? So, this new brand influencer or social media influencer is kind of a new concept where in today's world of social media, where if you post something, you can influence what people do, what they buy. Would you consider me an influencer? I guess you could consider me an influencer, but I don't try to do that. What I try to do is be more of a resource in our community. It's more than just posting a picture online and getting somebody to do something. Am I an influencer? I feel that I'm more of a resource than an influencer. I am constantly getting asked information back and forth. Do I have connections different places? Open up those doors. I would say I'm more of a facilitator than an influencer. I try to facilitate things getting done. Whether it's putting two people together that are trying to build a marina, people that are trying to put tournaments together, somebody that wants to buy a boat, somebody that needs good tackle, that kind of stuff. I feel like I'm more of a facilitator than an influencer. Without fishing, any other sports or hobbies? We heard you also like hunting. I love hunting. And really, fishing is nothing more than hunting. When you're on the water, you're looking for birds, you're looking for temperature breaks, you're looking for something different that's going to hold fish. So fishing and hunting are both very, very similar. But I do love hunting. I'm very big into archery hunting. I don't get very much time to do it anymore. I'm pretty much busy 12 months out of the year. But whenever I get the chance, I know when I am up north, giant tuna fishing, I do a little bit of bow and arrow hunting with a friend of mine up there. Let's see. What's the next question? Am I a good fisherman or a good boat captain? You know what? You have to be both. If you want to be a good boat captain, you have to be a good fisherman. You need to know exactly what you need to do to get the fish up. Once the fish is up, what you can do to help your anglers and your crew to close the deal, get the bite on the fish, and then catch the fish. And then what to do with the boat to get the fish up as fast as possible. So to be a good captain, you have to be a good fisherman. And to be a good captain, you have to be a good teacher. It's not just going out there and running a boat. It's going out there and making sure all the people that are working with you are going to be better every day. I just had a great conversation with somebody about a week ago, and they said you can always tell somebody, or you can always tell a good captain by his tree, meaning who are the mates and anglers that he had that have continued that success. So who is a good captain is not just who can go out there and catch a lot of fish, but can actually teach somebody how to catch fish, and then they can go out and perform that same duty on their own. So just being a good captain and putting somebody on the fish doesn't make you good. It's how can you teach those people that are fishing with you, and then they can continue that on. That's your legacy. That is going to be who speaks for you when you're not on the rip. So just by the number of flags that you fly at the end of the day, it doesn't make you a good captain. It's who are all the people that have fished underneath you and you've had the opportunity to coach and teach. Those are the people that show whether you're a good captain or not. In the NBA, people compare Jordan with LeBron. In sport fishing, are there any Jordans or a LeBron? Who would you be? Fishing is different. So, and I'm going to use NBA, and I'm a big sports fan. When you are the LeBron James, the Michael Jordans, the Kobe Bryants, rest his soul, you are at your best when you first start out. You end up peaking at about 25, 30. When you're fishing, you can't even tell you're good until you're in your 50s and 60s, where you can see what you've accomplished, how it all adds up. So fishing is a different sport altogether. And then you got to throw onto it what we were just talking about that previously, your coaching tree. These are your accomplishments. These are your legacies. Who was able to learn from you and continue to show what you taught them? So when you look at somebody like Michael Jordan or LeBron James and you see what they personally accomplished is one thing, but when you're a fisherman, when you're a boat captain, it is not just what you do, it's what everybody does after they move on from you. That is really the sign of a good fisherman. So it's a little bit different. So if you're going to look at somebody like a LeBron or Michael Jordan, you got to look at their tree. So for me, I would look at people like Mike Lemon. I would look at people like Brad Simons, Chip Schaefer. You're talking about guys that have unbelievable branches that go on from them, that have had great mates and deckhands that have become great captains themselves. So that to me is how you prove that you are a quote-unquote a Michael Jordan or a LeBron James, by how your legacy continues from there. We read about my charity programs. Tell us a little bit about, we'd like to know about the initiatives of In the Bite, Kids in the Fly Zone Fishing. So I was one of the co-founding members of In the Bite, with Dale Wills and Sandra Maciak. We started that back in 1999. We were some young kids and wanted to connect fishermen. That was our biggest thing. And then Fly Zone Fishing and Kids in the Fly Zone, they kind of work hand in hand. Fly Zone Fishing, I started as just something to run my tournaments that I started promoting. But really, the company is about promoting and marketing fishing as an industry in today's social media world. You have to look at it differently. Unlike old days where you pay for an ad or you get paid for writing an article, there's so many good fishermen out there that are creating content, creating their own stories, and Fly Zone Fishing is about getting those stories and putting them out. And in today's social media world, I know me personally, I have used traditional media and I've used social media to make a worldwide reach. And I see it every day, especially right now in the world we're at, where I'm broadcasting live every day. I'm watching people come in on my live feeds from all over the world, from Japan, Australia, Maldives, Cameroon, Mozambique, Europe, United States. I see people, fishermen, not just people, but fishermen from all over the world joining us. So, and for me, I'm just using the tools that are available to us to connect them all. It would be like going out fishing on a boat without a depth finder, without a GPS, without a sonar. So we have all these tools out to us. So use those tools to tell the story. And that's what I'm doing. Kids in the Fly Zone, I've created for the same thing, but instead of having a 12-year-old, a 15-year-old compete to try to create content with somebody that's 40 years old, has 10 GoPros, has a Nikon camera, and has a 40-foot boat, give the opportunity to kids out there that are creating their own content and show it off to other kids. So I actually just interviewed somebody yesterday, 11 years old. He's out there creating his own content, has his own sponsors. I want them to have their own platform to do the same. So are the fishermen trustworthy? The question is, because we only get to see the flags when the boat arrives at the dock. How does the flag system work? So we're not getting paid by the fish by what we release. So it doesn't do us any good to fly a flag if we didn't catch the fish. And God forbid you fly more flags than what you catch and you get found out as a liar or as a cheater. In this industry, liars and cheaters don't do well in the fishing industry. If once you get labeled as that, it'll stick with you forever. So I would say fishermen are very trustworthy in that sense. Because if you do get found out to be a liar, man, that's the worst label you would want. And how does the flag system work? For those that don't know, we put up a flag for every fish we release. So if you release 3 blue marlins, you put up 3 blue marlin flags. If you get 5 sailfish, you put up 5 sailfish flags. And then you always, the tier system is always blue marlins on top, followed by white marlins, sailfish, and then any other species you catch after that. So that's how it's broken down. And it's just our way of bragging to what we caught for that day. Fishermen are very, very competitive. Let's see. How is it organized? How is a fishing tournament organized? And how many years do you have doing this? How many fishing tournaments do you do during the year? And what are the details you focus on the most? So I put on my first tournament in 2012, and I still have that tournament. It's a Gulf of Mexico wide tournament on the 4th of July. Since then, I've also been able to take on the position as tournament director for the Blue Marlin World Cup, which is the Around the World tournament on the 4th of July. I have an Around the World swordfish tournament that was won last year in the Dominican Republic. Right now, I believe I just gave up position on the tournament director of a tournament out in the Seychelles. It wasn't working out for me. And I want to say I think I'm running 5 tournaments right now, but I'm looking at possibly starting another 3 different tournaments here in the future. And that could lead to more as the longer I stay at home, because I love projects. How does it work? Fishermen like to compete, so I try to harness that and put together something that fishermen want to participate in. It's a big deal. Every day is a tournament. I'm always competing. When I go out fishing, I'm competing with the guys on either side of me. That's just my thing. I want to be the best fisherman out there. So with that being said, I just try to harness that and let the fishermen go out there and see who's the best over a 2 or 3 day period. So that's what I try to do. What made you visit the Dominican Republic and get to organize a tournament? I came down to the Dominican Republic to fish a tournament. I had been in the Dominican Republic fishing several different seasons. I had a friend of mine invite me to go down and fish a tournament with him. While I was there, I got a chance to run into my very good friends, Josie and Vilma, in Casa de Campo. By that time, I'd already been running 2 different tournaments, and they wanted something that would help them promote their marina and their location, and I'm very big on that. My company, again, we like to promote fishing, we like to promote tourism, we like to promote locations. So they're very good friends of mine. They're almost like my brother and sister. I see them as family, and when they asked me of the opportunity of trying to help them promote their marina, I jumped at it. I like to work with people that I enjoy being around. I don't like doing business with people that I don't enjoy. So when I get the opportunity to work with friends and family to promote something, especially fishing, I jump at it, and we have a very good time doing it. The Dominican Republic is a beautiful place. The fishing's really good. The boats enjoy it, and it gives me an opportunity to deal with my friends, my fishing friends, not only from the U.S., but my fishing friends from the Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, Venezuela. So it's really worked out great for me for that, to have the opportunity to work with so many of my friends from all over the world. Could you explain to us how fishing boats located in the East Coast of the United States organizes its fishing calendar for the whole year? That is actually a person by person or a boat by boat decision. That's something where the captain and the owner have to sit down and say, okay, what do we want to catch? And I think that's really what it boils down to first. It's not necessarily where do we want to go, but what do we want to catch? And if you want to catch blue marlin in the spring, then you have to literally plan your calendar around that. If you want to catch sailfish, then you plan your calendar around that. So it's all different. If you're looking to base it around some tournaments that you want to fish, like the Los Sueños tournaments, the Triple Crown. If you want to catch blue marlins in the spring, you go to the DR. If you want to catch sailfish, you go to Mexico. If you want to participate in some of the big money East Coast tournaments, you go there. So it's all depending on what you want to do. What the owner wants to do, what the captain and the owner decide they want to do, and then you plan your calendar around that and the fishing seasons, and it's really not that hard once you go through the step-by-step process of what exactly you want to accomplish, what's your goals for the year. So that's the biggest thing. You need to figure out what you want to do. Let's see. For those of you that are not for those who are not experts in maritime transit and depart from Florida, how many stops do they usually make, and where do they generally stop, and why? Your biggest thing right there is going to be fuel. Fuel is your fuel and weather. If you have good weather, you keep going. If you have lots of fuel, you keep going. So a lot of people, they may stop in Long Island, Clarencetown, Long Island, which is about 300 miles from Florida, give or take. Depending on where you leave, it could be 365, it could be almost 400. But nowadays, most boats can make that. Most boats can make that run in a day. If the weather's nice, you go, you get fuel there. And then depending on where you're trying to go, you either stop off in the Turks and Caicos and get more fuel, or you can make it right to Ocean World in the Dominican Republic. But a lot of boats like to stop in the Turks and Caicos, get fuel, and then from there they can go right to Cap Cana, or they can make it all the way around to Casa de Campo, Puerto Rico, or St. Thomas. But the biggest thing is always dependent on fuel and weather. You need to make sure you have enough fuel, and is the weather going to let you make it? So the better the weather, the farther you can go. The worse the weather, you got to slow it down, and those make giant factors. For the authorities that are watching this, could you... the printer didn't go. I'm going to have to go over here to my trusty computer and look at this. Question number 16. For the authorities that are watching this, could you explain customs and immigration process that a fishing boat does when arriving in Florida, Miami, or in Palm Beach? Well, it's all dependent on your last port of clearance. Nowadays, it's fairly simple. If everybody has global entry cards, or their customs and their customs sticker, you call in. It's a simple phone call. When you first come into the inlet, you fly your quarantine flag, letting everybody know that you're coming in from a different country. Once you tie up, the captain immediately calls Customs and Border Patrol. He calls in with his customs decal number that all boats and planes have to make it as easy as possible. With that number, it gives all the pertinent information. You're already on file, and then you give everybody's passport information, and as long as everybody's a U.S. citizen or legal resident, it's very simple. They can clear you over the phone. If there's anything that they might need to see you face to face, they'll call you into the local office. And depending where you're at in Palm Beach, they might need to make you go to the port or go to Palm Beach Airport. Lauderdale, they might need to make you go to Lauderdale Airport, or Executive Airport, or the port of entry of Fort Lauderdale, Port Everglades. Number 17. Is the bite of a marlin in the Atlantic different from the Pacific? And what I'm telling you right now is my own personal opinion, because I've had people tell me all kinds of stories. A blue marlin is a blue marlin. All they do is they swim, they eat, and they make little blue marlins. So the bite, to me, has always been the same. The only difference is how people fish. If you fish differently, they're going to act differently. So if you take your techniques from one spot and you go to another and use the same techniques, chances are they're going to react the same way. Will you get the same amount of bites? That's a different story. But if you're going faster, you're going to have a more aggressive bite. If you're going slower for bait speed, you're going to be able to see the fish, and you'll be able to feed him the bait at a much easier pace. So I think the biggest variable there is the fisherman. Let's see, question number 18. What is my thoughts on how COVID-19 would change the sport fishing industry and the tournaments? So I have a tournament that I've had to postpone, and possibly I'm going to decide today if we're going to cancel it or not. But one of the things we were already talking about was social distancing. Not putting everybody into one location, at least for right now. Giving people a lot more area to work with. Not putting people in a tight, confined tent or a room. It's a big deal. So, also probably I saw it at the boat shows, or should I say the fishing shows, as I was in Japan earlier on this year. Provide more ways for people to sanitize their hands, alcohol, pumps and hand sanitizers all over the place so people can continually wash their hands. I know one of the things, being Latin, being Cuban, I'm a very big hugger. I shake people's hands, I hug people. I think that might be something that we're going to be changing, at least in the near future. I hope not for a long time, because I'm very, very big with showing my affection to my friends. When I see my friends, I like to give them a hug. It's just the way I was brought up, the way I was taught. So it's a big deal to me. Are we going to be seeing a difference? I think for the time being, especially early on, and this is again just a personal opinion, I think people are going to be a little nervous about flying commercial airlines. So we might not see that much traveling on airlines, at least commercial. At least for the early time being, I would say for the next maybe 6 to 8 months. I know I'm already looking at tickets on some of my travel destinations on fishing where I'm going, and I'm already trying to put together a plan on how I'm going to handle making sure I'm safe, I'm protected. And I've always been, because I travel on so many airplanes, I've always been a little bit of a germaphobe, knowing that there's so many people in airports. So I don't think I'm going to have to change too much, but I think I just some of the things that I do, I'm just going to have to do it a little bit more often. So these are some of the things that I know that it's going to affect us and affect some of the tournaments. Where especially some of the tournaments where you may see 400 or 500 people in a certain location, or even more, we're going to have to look at it in a different way to make sure people are safe. So that's it. Those are all the questions that I was asked for my self-interview. I really appreciate everybody's time, and thank you so much. If you have any other questions, always feel free to reach out to me. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Peace out.